This podcast is a Radio Mike original production. Head to radiomike.com.au to find out more. G'day guys, Mike here. Welcome to another edition of Mike Talks, where I talk to interesting people doing interesting things and friends of mine and etc. Really happy to have today's guest, Matt Dwyer, on the show. Now, Matt is a podcast producer, and I know him from where I work at Listener, but he is also a actor and also a music producer, particularly in the indie video game world, which is very cool. He also has a band called Echo and Bloom, also very cool. But I've been wanting to get Matt on the show for a little while, and I thought this was the perfect time because he's literally just started and will be appearing for the next 2 weeks as the lead role in a production of Green Day's American Idiot, the musical.
Calling out to Idiot America. Welcome to our new kind of tension all across the alien nation.
If you're not familiar, I think in like 2014, 2015, Green Day adapted, I guess Broadway adapted Green Day's pinnacle 2004 album, American Idiot, into a stage musical. It's quite an interesting adaptation, which we talk about a lot in this conversation. But yeah, bringing a conceptual album to life on stage. There is a bit of ambiguity around the story, but yeah, American Idiot is quite a strong concept album, and bringing it to the stage is such a fantastic decision. The music is amazing. We talk a bit about that in this episode, but yeah, Matt is about to be the lead character of Johnny in that musical, in a production from Theatrical that runs here in Melbourne from the 9th to the 26th of March. There's a ticket link in the description. Highly recommend you go and watch that show because it is such a fun show, and Matt is an incredible performer. You can go to theatrical.com.au and you can get tickets there. And yeah, we chat all about the show itself, his philosophy on acting. He got me thinking about acting in a way that I've actually never thought about it before, which was really fascinating, and I hope you guys like that as well. As his time as both a podcast producer, a sound engineer, and as a composer for indie video games, as well as our experience gaming in general, which was really, really fun. I hope you enjoy this chat with my good friend, Matt Dwyer. All right, welcome to Mike Talks, the sometimes bonus edition of my podcast that I sometimes do when I sometimes have time, and I do have time, and I'm so excited to be joined. I'm actually recording this in a professional studio because I actually work with today's guest, Matt Dwyer. Welcome to Mike Talks.
Thank you for having me.
I have been wanting to talk to you for a while, and because we actually both are busy, like, we've been pushing this back, and thank you for your patience around that. But the reason I wanted to talk to you today, you are about to be the starring role in the American Idiot musical, the Broadway musical American Idiot, which is of course an adaptation of the seminal album of the same name by Green Day. Can you just tell us a little bit, first of all, about the role and how you got it, what it means to you, and etc.
Yeah, absolutely. Really stoked to be playing the role of Johnny, who's the lead in American Idiot. It was the sort of usual audition process of getting these things. The call out goes out, you audition for it, you then get a call back, you go to the call back, and then usually get told yes or no from there. Funny enough, I just come off doing Rock of Ages, an amateur production of Rock of Ages. And I was really toing and froing about jumping into another show. Not that I thought I was going to get it, but I was just like, if I do, because it's a big time sink, and I've got a young family. And my wife actually was the one that made me do it. She's like, it's a perfect role for you. I know the show. You should do it. Because I actually didn't know the show. Love the album, didn't know the show.
You mean the American Idiot show, not Rock of Ages?
Yeah, sorry, American Idiot. Yeah, so
cool.
I didn't really know the show at all, the American Idiot, but I love the album, love Green Day. So I was like, yep, okay, cool. And I actually only went for Johnny, the lead role. And I went in, played a guitar track and of my choice, and then got a call back where I had to do a scene and another song from the album.
Yeah.
And then I got told on the spot that I got it, which was pretty cool. They were like, yeah, you just shine in the audition, and we just we thought that's our guy. So that was really cool getting it on the spot.
Now, you guys open what date again?
We've got 3 preview shows from the 9th, 10th, and 11th. So that's
Cool.
the Thursday 9th, Friday 10th, 11th. And then the opening night is Saturday night.
So, okay. So for people who don't know, I actually think the American Idiot musical is one of the, like, strangest things to ever exist. In 2004, Green Day puts out their album American Idiot. And then 10-ish years later, they're like, we're turning it into a Broadway musical. You must have been like, what, 20? Oh, how old were you when American Idiot came
When
out?
it came out?
Definitely not 20.
04.
Yeah. 15? 14?
How old am I now? Let's do some maths. So that's like 16, 18 years ago. So yeah, I would have been 14, 15, 13, 14, 15. Yeah.
And so tell me about like hearing that album for the first time and what it meant to you.
Yeah, because I grew up going through. I was a punk kid going through. Starting through Blink-182 and Pennywise, Sum 41,
Yeah.
that stage, Green Day, and then slowly moved through into more hardcore and thrash in my teenage years, and
Okay.
I played in hardcore bands my entire life.
Yeah.
Screaming and singing, being aggressive. But yeah, American Idiot, when that came out, I think that might have been like one of the first times I'd heard a concept album.
Yes.
Yeah, I
think it was everyone's first concept album.
I'd never really, and I still don't think I actually understood it. Being 14 or so,
Yeah.
I kind of didn't really get it until years later when you sort of have a nostalgia trip and you go back and you listen to it again.
Totally.
And I did that and sort of got the plot of what Billy Joe was trying to deliver. And so for those who don't know the show of American Idiot, it's a rock opera, meaning that it's sung through. So there aren't actually any actual scenes apart from small little excerpts that my character delivers in between the songs. It's a sung through musical.
Yeah.
All of the action, all of the emotion, everything's done within the songs themselves. So the reason why you said it's a strange musical is because it's pretty ambiguous with a lot of the intentions behind it. And I find that I've watched a couple of different bootlegs of the show, and I find that sometimes the intentions aren't clear.
Yeah.
If you don't know the album well enough to be able to translate what's happening in front of you, you might walk away going, that was shit.
Totally.
The music was cool, but what the fuck was the story?
Yeah. I think what's interesting about it is, like, first of all, the reason I think American Idiot resonated so hard with like kids and teenagers literally was just because it was called American Idiot, which was like an edgy title, the iconic album artwork. Like, I think that just resonated, but it resonated critically with so many like adults and music aficionados because of the concept behind the record, which was like Billy Joe Armstrong grappling with like a post 9/11 America, the Bush administration coming to an end. Oh no, sort of halfway through the Bush administration, and like picking up the pieces as a normal American citizen after 9/11 and after that sort of trauma of being an American, and criticizing the politics of America and everything like that. And that's all conceptually explored in the music, and there's like a loose storyline, but what this musical has done is sort of brought some of the characters in the music, and there's tracks like Saint Jimmy and What's Her Name, and it's sort of taken all of those characters and Jesus of Suburbia and made them into a more, I guess, a story.
Yeah,
but it's
yeah.
still quite ambiguous.
Yeah, so the story with the American Idiot musical is it follows 3 guys, Johnny, Will, and Tunny, and their need to become something more. They're sort of grappling with that post 9/11 life.
Searching for meaning.
They're in a dead-end suburban town. They want to get out. They sort of they get some bus tickets. They get out of the town, but their paths become estranged, and they go their own way. And each of the way they go is a downward spiral for each of them. It's a pretty dark musical, very fun and challenging to explore those characterizations. I'd never done anything so heavy before, so that was a really cool thing to sort of sink my teeth into as a performer, and trying to find connections with that, because the character of Johnny, at least, there's pretty intense sex in there.
Yeah. You get a very long makeout scene because I've seen the musical before, not with you.
Yeah.
That must be fun.
Yeah. It's an interesting it was an interesting one, and my co-lead Romy, she's absolutely fantastic, and the way we sort of blocked it out was you need to develop that comfortability and trust and safety with someone to be able to perform those scenes with truth, but also incredibly safe, So it was funny when we started blocking those scenes, there were closed rehearsals, so it's just us two, the director and the choreographer. And the way we blocked it was literally using placeholders. You don't just jump straight into kissing someone. You still develop that trust over the time. And we were just basically stepping through the motions of how we were going to enact these scenes, and we didn't put placeholders in. So instead of kissing, you'd even start with kind of just touching hands in front of each other like that.
Interesting.
And then you move on to like get kind of going for it, but not actually kissing. And then when we say go into the sex scene, we barely even touching, or not even touching, I don't think, for the first one. And we kind of, funny enough, we had the first thing that they were making us do, we were laying under the blanket and literally just wriggling like worms.
To simulate
okay. But not even touching, like side by side and just like wiggling like worms.
Yeah.
And I remember after that rehearsal, because we'd both gone into it thinking there was going to be quite a bit of physical touch at that rehearsal. And so we were speaking afterwards and we both sort of went, you expected to do more, right? And we were like, yeah. And then we kind of made this decision together of like, well, let's up it. We'll up it. And then we did that. And then the next time we rehearsed it, we upped it again. We upped it. And then as that sort of trust and relationship developed between us, it kind of just became part of the job. And so now we're able to sort of do it. It's very professional. It's very fun. It's safe. It's comfortable. And we only really do what's integral to the show. We don't kind of, we don't sit there like making out and tonguing each other just cause.
It must be like a pretty anxiety inducing thing to like do that in front of an audience as well.
Yeah, it started off that way, and I think we were a bit nervous to do it in front of the cast, but that was sort of a good jumping off block, is doing something like that in front of the cast and having the cast support you with having to do something like that, because obviously everyone empathizes that you have to do this in front of a lot of people. So when we open, we'll see how it goes, but I think we're pretty good. Like, we feel pretty good about it. Like, everything's blocked, so everything we do is the same thing every single time we run it. There's no improv in our scenes. It's the exact same timing of the kiss, the exact same length of the kiss, the positioning of our hands, the positioning of our feet and legs, and then when we go onto the bed, same timing every single time. Same thing we do, same places we touch every single time.
So it becomes like mechanical, I guess. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
And so it also incorporates songs from 21st Century Breakdown, which was the follow-up. What was have you heard that album, and do you have a preference of the two?
Definitely American Idiot.
Yeah.
So I think the songs from 21st Century Breakdown, I believe, are 21 Guns, Favorite Son,
Know Your Enemy, and Last Night on Earth.
Last Night on Earth,
which is a beautiful song.
Yeah, so Last Night on Earth, I don't want it to spoil too much for the show, but you know it. But Last Night on Earth is a really pivotal moment in the show for Johnny and what's her name? The character of Johnny's sort of female counterpart is actually called What's Her Name?
And I think that was sort of like in the album as well. Like, the idea of that was it's a woman he once loved that now he just like can't even really remember or doesn't want to remember who she was. So that's why the song's called What's Her Name? Because it's a song about being really heartbroken and trying to move on from someone you loved.
Yeah, I think, and definitely the way I'm playing it is not that he wants to forget who she is. It's that he can't remember who she is. And that's because he sort of goes down that drug-induced spiral.
Yeah.
His life is, and that's the way I'm playing it is kind of devastating. Like, he had an opportunity for love and he fucked it up. Yeah. He ruined it himself. So there's this moment, and the way I've been trying to really portray it over the course of the show is it's very important for me anyway to make sure that the audience really likes Johnny at the start.
Yeah,
he's fun. you know, you're rooting for him to
He's
get
like
out of this town.
charismatic,
Yeah,
charming.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you know, and that friendship between him and Will and Tunny needs to really be shown, because you need those impactful moments of when they split and when they separate and go their own paths. You need that to hit, and then you need the audience to root for Johnny later on as well when he's making terrible decisions. You need them to say, "No, don't do that, you fucking idiot!" Like he had it going for you, but then you want them to understand that he is. That's what drugs do.
Yeah,
they
they ruin everything.
Yeah,
That's
sorry,
so-
am I allowed to swear in this?
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, like, you're such a
I
potty
would've
mouth, and I was
stopped
like-
you the first time. Hey, that's so interesting what you just said about. I've never thought about that from an actor's perspective, because you're like an actor, like that you're playing the character in a way that you're like interpreting that character's intentions and what you want. Like, how often are you thinking about how you want the audience to perceive the character? Like,
Yeah,
in anything.
Yeah, all the time. I mean, that's the whole
Yeah.
point of it. Is there's you work with, you know, a director, and you kind of get this idea of where you want the character to go, and then you add truth to it. You don't want to bring yourself into the role, especially something like this. I need to separate myself from Johnny a lot because of all the drugs, the sex, all that, you know, trying to kill himself.
Yeah.
I can't have me in that, because I'm going to go home. I go home sad every night. You know,
Yeah,
I need
yeah.
to de-roll after every rehearsal, because it sounds super wanky, but you have to do it. Like, I am very sad after we run the show, because it's just like really emotional, and I need to, like, I look at baby photos of my baby, listen to my favorite music, do all that. Yeah,
It's sort of like the Heath Ledger as the Joker thing.
Yep.
That's kind of what they say sort of happened with him, is he got so into that role that
Yep.
it just kind of overtook his entire life. Like,
Yeah.
that's sort of what they used to say about what
yeah.
happened.
I mean, and obviously, you know, I'm nowhere near to that extent of him, but I can kind of see, with him being such the phenomenal performer he was and is, that's what he did. He wanted to give it everything, and then it took too much from him. And
Yeah.
yeah,
And so I guess in that sense, there's sort of like, as you as an actor kind of interpret your own truth about a character, but how much of that do you think comes from, because I guess like the person writing it has an idea of the truth, and Billy Joe Armstrong has an idea of the truth, and the director has an idea of the truth. So like, where do you find that balance of like, I'm doing my interpretation of the character, but what if someone else is like, well, that's not what I think the character is? Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Is that hard?
absolutely. Yeah, well, I guess it's not hard. It's conversations, because there were choices that I was making in the show that I thought was the right thing for me anyway, or for the character. And the director was like, "Oh, this is kind of what I felt." And then there's, you know, in Boulevard of Broken Dreams, there's like a bit of a dialogue before I start singing, and I had this interpretation of it being more uplifting, and he was like, no, well, he's kind of saying it, these lines, because they're drifting away, it's all fading away, so he's not going to be that happy about it. And I was like, oh shit, you're right, actually. That's a really good way to look at it. And so it's like that. It's
like a negotiation in a way.
Yeah, and it's good, you know, you don't want to have too many cooks in the kitchen, but having, you know, that's what the director's there for. They've got their vision, and you're there to help bring that vision to life. And you need to establish the foundation of what your character is, and then apply truth to it through that. Like, you don't, like I said, it's that weird balance of bringing yourself into it, but not like the parts of you that are really important
Yeah,
to your sanity. It's just like, you know, and everything within that character, like when I get sad and stuff, that's all within that character. So I'm not, you know, I cry in the show and I cry on command. I'm not thinking of sad things. I'm not thinking of like my baby
My
dying.
grandma died. Yeah.
Like, I don't, like, that's horrible. I would never think that to cry.
Yeah.
I'm thinking as the character in the show,
Interesting.
fuck, my life sucks.
That is so interesting though, because I feel like I don't know, you have to have some like advanced level of like empathy or something to actually have that physiological response as someone else's thought. Like,
Yeah.
I know this is like so much for me to get my head. I've never thought of anything to do with this in acting. This is
Yeah.
like so eye-opening for me.
And a lot of it actually comes from me listening to the other characters.
Yeah.
You know, part of when I break down within the show is in 21 Guns
Yeah.
and Know Your Enemy.
Incredible song, by the way.
Oh, they're just so good. and because I don't actually really sing in that, I'm pretty passed out in that song, which is such a shame because especially our cast smash it.
Yeah.
And
it is such a beautiful arrangement of the original 21 Guns, which is such a great song, but this arrangement is like next level.
Yeah.
I'd almost say it's better than the original.
I
Broadway
think it
version.
is. I do think it is.
It's
The Broadway
so
version's better
gorgeous.
than the original.
Yeah.
Because it is like, and that's a lot. Same with a lot of these tracks. Not to divert, but same with a lot of these tracks are the originals, but better. You know,
they're
that's
just-
up for
it's like
interpretation.
the-
but they've got like strings, and they've got it's the same tracks.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. It's like if you know the song "American Idiot," which everyone does, just it's that song, but Broadway version.
Yeah, bigger.
And- bigger harmonies. Repeating part. Like it's if you love American Idiot, you should definitely listen to the original soundtrack because it's like experiencing that album again in a slightly different way.
Yeah, and I really call this musical like a bridging musical. It's a musical for people who don't like musicals. You know, if you're into hard rock and punk, you like the show because you like the music. You might, the storyline. If you know the album, you might get the storyline a little bit, but it's a real bridging musical between hard rock, punk, and a musical.
That kind of like makes me think of this theory I've always had with Green Day because, and again, we're diverting a lot, but I always think that's the sign of a good conversation. I always thought, because Green Day, of course, in the 90s copped so much flack for signing to a major label and doing Dookie, right? They were just like, that's not punk. You guys aren't punk anymore. Fuck you guys. They got banned from like a lot of the venues in Oakland.
Does
and
Dookie have
stuff.
Basket Case on it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Well, so good.
Dookie
Yeah.
was like the original breakthrough album of Green Day.
Yeah.
Then they were like, riding the success of that for 10 years and they were kind of like becoming more irrelevant. Then they put out American Idiot and it exploded all over again, right? But I always thought like they did that, they got accused of not being punk, and then they just kind of were like, well, fuck that. We're just gonna keep doing what we're doing anyway. Did it, put out American Idiot, again, super mainstream.
That's
and
what punk is, though. Not fucking caring what anyone says anyway.
that's the point I'm gonna get to. I always said making a Broadway musical about your punk rock opera concept album is literally the most punk thing they could have done.
Yeah.
Because it's literally them saying, we just don't care about it anymore. We're making a Broadway musical because we think it's fucking awesome.
Yeah, do what you want.
Yeah. And there's this, I don't know. I just think it's such a important thing to remember about them is they're always pushing a lot of boundaries in the punk scene. But yeah, we were talking about acting and like being in character and stuff. How do you feel when you're on stage in character? Do you feel any of Matt? Or like, do you feel like you're gone?
Yeah, a little bit of both. So I think I try not to be me when I'm on stage because, there are just things that I wouldn't do on stage.
Yeah.
So I try not to.
Don't they, am I remembering wrong, or do they actually have people, like the dancers, like tying stuff around their arms and injecting shit and stuff? Or am I making that
No,
up?
well, I inject heroin.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
I think I
myself
was-
and what's the name, the character, inject
Yes.
heroin. Yeah.
I think I was actually thinking of Summer Heights High and Mr. G the musical, where he's like, and these are like the girls wrapping they're injecting the heroin
Ecstasy.
and doing yeah. I think I was conflating them. Sorry.
No,
Go on.
that's good memories. But yeah, it is. It's just being that guy and being him on stage, and because I think if there's me on stage, people see that. Like, if you're second guessing yourself because you're thinking of what people might think of you, people can see that.
True. You let your guard down a bit.
Yeah. So, and that's actually something I really struggle with as a performer is dropping that guard. And I can feel it even in this performance. 70% of it I'm gone, but then there's like 30% where my eyes will dart around to see who's looking or what people
Yeah.
are thinking.
And then you're worried, like, mum's in the audience just
Yeah.
Waving. Hey,
Yeah.
mum.
Hey, mum, oh, shit,
Like,
hey,
the
hey,
kid
no.
at the kid at the school concert who sees mum, they're like,
Yeah, well, mum's coming. My family from Perth are all flying over to come see me, which is
Awesome.
absolutely beautiful of them. And yeah, mum, see how you go with watching me get naked on stage, have sex, inject heroin, try to kill myself.
It's like the everything a mum wouldn't want to see their child do.
Yeah.
She has to watch you do
Yeah,
it.
exactly right. So hopefully, hopefully she feels something.
Are there any actors that you like that inspire you? Like, just I don't know, like anyone that you look at and you're like, yeah, that's someone that I think is just an amazing actor.
Yeah, a lot of the popular ones, Christian Bale,
Yeah.
Jake Gyllenhaal, like just like the Daniel Day-Lewis, like the actors that like throw themselves into a role. I think that when there's an actor that can just do 100 movies and in every movie there's someone different,
Yeah.
and you're not like, oh, that's Captain Jack Sparrow.
Yeah.
Like even though Depp's an amazing actor, like.
There was a movie Johnny Depp was in that he was playing a character that was suspiciously like Jack Sparrow. I think it was like the Lone Ranger.
Oh, he got shredded for that. Because I think it's supposed to be an American Indian.
Yeah. Right. When you were saying, yeah, an actor who you can see in like 200 movies and they're just a different person, I was going to be like, like Adam Sandler, of course.
Yeah. Little Nicky over and over again.
I swear to God, every Adam Sandler movie is just literally Adam Sandler in a movie.
Yeah,
Like,
although the new one, like
Uncut Gems.
Uncut Gems, and I haven't seen the Safdie brothers are amazing with like Uncut Gems, and there's a basketball one. What's his newer one? He's got where he's a basketball coach.
Oh,
Apparently
I've heard of it. I haven't
amazing in
seen
that.
it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Why,
Have you seen? Oh,
why
no.
is Adam Sandler having this like now at age like 60? He's like showing everyone that he's actually a good actor.
Yeah,
I don't get that. Like you've done like 80 shit movies,
Yeah.
and now you're like, I'll do one good one.
Yeah. It's redemption, right? It's his redemption arc.
Finally, he's like read all the reviews of his movies. Like, I am shit. I have to show them.
Although I don't know, back in the day, like I think being an adult, you watch Billy Madison and Little Nicky, and you're like, ugh,
Yeah.
bit cringe. But being a kid, those were hilarious.
Big Daddy
Yeah,
was
Big
like
Daddy is so good.
the perfect balance of like it was rude for a kid, and you loved it. You're
Mhm.
like, oh, this is so rude, and
Yeah.
it's funny, and yeah.
Yeah, that's what Little Nicky was to me, I think, when I was younger watching that.
Is
The
that the
demon
one-
with the big tits on his head?
Is that where his parents are Santa Claus?
No, that's the devil.
The devil and
an
the
angel.
God and an angel.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's good. And then also Click. Click was good. The one with
Yeah,
the remote. He
yeah.
could stop time.
I think I watched like maybe half of that.
Man, I love how I asked you who your favorite actor was, and now we're talking about Adam
Adam
Sandler's filmography. Mike Talks. We'll be right back. Hey guys, just a quick interruption. I really hope you're enjoying the show so far. If you would like to hear more conversations, they are all on this feed, the 20th Century Boy podcast, and I have had many conversations with various people, including Broden Kelly from Auntie Donna, what a legend. I've had Ryan Shelton, writer and producer, best known for some of his work in Hamish and Andy and the Imperfects podcast. I've had comedians like Luke Kidgel, who is currently doing a world tour, and Ruben Solo, who's about to do his next show in the Melbourne International Comedy Festival. They are all on this feed. Just type in Mike Talks on this feed or scroll down and you will find them all. There are some great episodes there and would love for you guys to check out some more, or just check out the main podcast, 20th Century Boy. And while you're listening, if you could please, I know even if you're just listening to this because you're one of Matt's friends and he shared it on his Instagram, it would mean the world to me if you A, listen to another episode, but B, rate this podcast 5 stars. I know that's a big ask, but if you're just listening to this one, I would really appreciate it if you could just give this podcast a 5-star rating and be like, yeah, you know what? It's a bloody good podcast. So we'd love for you to do that. Anyway, I won't keep you any longer. Here's good old Matt Dwyer. Let's get back into it. I don't know, is there anything else, like, I guess conceptually that you think, like, you want to... Because I just feel like I could talk about American Idiot and its importance to music and pop culture for so long. Like, is there anything about it that you want to get, like, that you'd want to tell people?
Yeah, a lot. it's a lot of fun to talk about, especially being in the production and especially this production itself. But one really cool thing that we're doing in this, and we've actually made a couple of edits linguistically for like words. We're changing a few words within the lyrics that are.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, a few of them.
There's a few in American Idiot. Like
we're keeping those.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
We're keeping any words that are in the intent behind it is empowerment.
Okay.
There's a few ableist lines in Jesus of Suburbia towards the back end. In what's the actual track? Dearly Beloved.
Yep. Yeah. Dearly Beloved.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get
So
you.
there's a few words that we've chopped out there. But one really cool thing that we're doing, which I think a few other productions have struggled to do, is really show the female empowerment side of it. The story really centers around the three main dudes.
Yeah.
And the productions that I've seen kind of push the female counterparts of those roles to the side a little bit. Whereas in our production, we're really hamming what's her name, like, and especially Romy, who plays her, is exceptional, and it's like use it. You know what I mean? You've got these three there's Tash, Harmony, and Romy, who play the three female co-leads, and they're all incredible performers. So it's like, well, use them, you know. And so we've made a few decisions in the show where some of the dialogue and lyrics, some of the lyrics, because there's no dialogue, are just the female cast members singing it.
Yeah.
And the way everyone's blocked and positioned.
So, like showcasing those people who have talent, but they're not given that opportunity in the musical as it stands, I guess.
It's less about showcasing their talent and more about showcasing the character and the writing and stuff.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
It's just lucky that these actors have got a lot of talent to do it. It's just, it just always felt like the characters were sort of nothingness. There's like this nothingness to them. There wasn't a lot of weight, whereas especially, you know, I can only speak for my character and his journey. Like, what's her name was the pinnacle of everything. Between Saint Jimmy and what's her name, you know, the whole point of his arc is rage and love. I'm the son of rage and love.
Yeah.
Rage and love. You got Saint Jimmy, you got what's her name, love, rage. Those two sort of have this intertwining narrative
and
around Johnny.
Those themes circle a few times in the lyrics of multiple songs.
Yeah.
You hear about rage and love a lot.
Yeah. And so making those, they're the pinnacle of his arc. And so it's really important to ham the character of what's name and the character of Jimmy a lot within the show. So, because you're sitting there and you're supposed to think, are these people real?
Yeah.
Are they just figments of his imagination? And I mean, Saint Jimmy is, it's you know, it's in the synopsis. It's his alter ego. Yeah. That he develops from being lonely.
Bit of a Mr. Jekyll and Dr. Hyde.
Yeah.
Kind of vibe.
And Will, who plays Saint Jimmy, is really fun to play with. He's very psychotic.
Well, and that role, like Billy Joe Armstrong played it for a while on Broadway.
Yeah.
And then so did Davey Havoc, who's from AFI. He played Saint Jimmy for a bit.
Yeah.
Which I just think is awesome as well.
Yeah, it's a real chaotic role, and it's...
Because Saint Jimmy is very much like this hedonist sort of just go and do it, like, you know, YOLO, go and shoot up, go and just seek maximum pleasure, which kind of goes back to the ethos of the show where they're at the start, they're like, you know, post 9/11, it's like there must be something more out there for us, and then this Saint Jimmy character kind of takes him into this underworld of drugs and sex and just experiencing as much pleasure as you possibly can.
Right, and our Saint Jimmy has gone a different direction in the costuming and the makeup and everything, so less punk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So you'll come, you'll see.
I'm excited. Yeah.
It's a very cool, interesting new direction for Saint Jimmy, which I think works. And I mean, Will pulls it off. He's really good.
When you say you make some changes to the show, does that mean, like, do you have to get permission to do that, like from Green Day or something?
Yeah. So when I say make changes, they're very small changes. You're not allowed to make changes to the show.
Yeah.
Any at all, really. You can kind of adapt it in the sense of like dropping harmonies and sort of playing with the music like that. You can't chop out sections of the songs. You can't decide to change things.
Yeah. Can't add a new
lyrically.
character.
You can't add a new character.
Just Dave from down the road.
Yeah,
He has a
Dave.
few lines.
Although he's a very good performer. It's so you there's a little bit of sway with how much you can change something, but you can't really change much. Anything impactful usually stays. So you can character direction for sure. You go, like the way you choose and the choices you make. Yep, absolutely. But anything lyrically, musically, a lot of that has to stay pretty tight.
And that's kind of what you were saying before about like your interpretation of a character and the truth of a character and stuff. Like that's all really subjective anyway. So they can't really bound you to like.
Yeah, I mean, and also Billy Joe's not going to come see the show, so.
Well, that's a shame. He probably should.
Yeah, I'll shoot him a DM.
He's like, no, I did the show, man. I lived the show.
Yeah.
I don't need to see it. Can we pivot a little bit to, because you're a very multi-talented guy as well, and you've done, like, I just saw you've done a lot of work as like a sound designer for indie video games as well.
Yeah,
Can you talk a little bit about like your experience in that industry?
Yeah, so I'm an audio guy by trade, I guess. Sound designer, music composer, character designer with voices, done all that. And yeah, I've been doing it for a decade now or so, sort of on the side. It's always been like a side hustle. And I think I've kept it that way so that the enjoyment stays there. You know, when like, I mean, you've probably felt the pressure of something you're really passionate about becoming monetized, or, you know, and then that passion becomes stress and a chore. So I was really feeling it towards the back of last year, actually. I was working on, you know, I had my full-time job and then a baby and then a show, a freaking musical that I was doing, but then also I was working on 2 video games on the side, and it just it piled up and it crushed me towards the back of last year.
Can get really burnt out from doing
100%.
But it's also like this passion of just wanting to do stuff. Like you want to do it, but you realize it's not physically possible to do everything.
Yeah, the time in the day is just not enough to get everything done that you want. But yeah, I've been working in the games industry for about 10 years now, sort of on and off, working on projects here and there, mostly indie video games, some really good crackers though, that have done one, you know, worked on one that's won a BAFTA for audio, which is pretty cool. That was called Florence. Yeah, I think one of my favorite games that I've worked on is one called Rumu.
Okay.
It's about a little sentient robot vacuum that only really knows love. And it's this phenomenal story about, you play this robot vacuum and you wake up in this AI house.
Yeah.
And there's a sort of mess that you have to clean up, but there's no one around that's made any mess. And you slowly start to unlock new areas of the house, and you find out this pretty dark story as to where the people are and why the AI is blocking you from entering certain rooms.
That is such an interesting use of like gaming and storytelling, and that sounds awesome.
I think that one won best story or best narrative at the Game Awards when it came out in like 2017 or 2018.
And when you say you, like, by the end of last year, you were really like, you were taking on so much stuff that it was becoming really hard. Like, did you burn out? And like, what was your experience with it?
Yeah, 100% I burnt out.
Yeah.
And I was still sort of feeling it into this new year, which is why when I was talking about finishing that other show, Rock of Ages, and jumping into American Idiot, that was all sort of entwined in it, because I'm a yes man.
Yeah.
Hey, I've got this job for you. Do you want to do it? Yeah, hell yeah. And then I'll figure it out later.
Yeah, that's me as well.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to work on it though.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too. I think it took about 7 or 8 months of having a baby for me to realize, mate, I can't do this anymore. Like, you know, because I know, you know, I didn't neglect the baby. The baby was just shoved into all that thing, and that's where all my energy and love went. Yeah. And then everything else was getting pushed back. I had no energy or time for everything else. So the idea of just saying yes to everything was, I mean, I just said no to a feature film. We're doing the sound mix on a feature film 2 days ago because they wanted a quick turnaround, and I was doing the show. And I would realize that my only time off that I would have with my family would be working again on something else.
Yeah.
So I just said, I'm so sorry, I can't do. Pretty huge opportunity, and I was kicking myself for saying no, but
But it's also like sometimes you just genuinely are like, and maybe it's just the vibe of our generation where you're like, oh, I feel like I can't have downtime because downtime feels like wasted time and unproductive time. And I don't know, I mean, it's a deeper philosophical conversation, but I genuinely think it's because I think our generation is much less religious and like we have so much more of a grounded understanding of death and stuff. And I think then we actually just feel like we're always wasting time if we're not doing something.
Oh, dude, 100%.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's like a perfect segue into like downtime and playing games, which we both love to do.
Yeah.
Like that's my downtime is playing video games is
Yeah.
my rest and relaxation. My wife likes to play, but she likes to read books as well.
Yeah.
Some people like to read books. Some people like to do like exercise. I like to play video games. Like
Yeah. And what are you playing at the moment?
Hogwarts.
Yeah,
I
I am
Revelia.
Yeah, and this is like the core of our friendship began just because we started in the hallways at work talking about video games that we've been playing, being like, you got to play this, man.
Yep.
But yeah, so you're a really avid gamer.
Yeah, I try. I mean, when I have time, I don't have a lot of time these days, but that's why, like, if I can get, I mean, luckily my wife likes to go to bed early, so she can go to bed and then I can stay up for another couple of hours playing a game.
Yeah.
Before I call it. But the one thing that I've really shifted to is just offline single player games.
Yeah.
Being able to pause it is a dream, you know.
Yeah.
No longer like being stuck on a multiplayer online competitive game where you're like, oh,
Can't pause.
I can't
leave.
pause. I'm
Yeah.
locked in for the next 40 minutes
Yeah.
playing this game.
But the other thing I think with that was getting me for a while, and I wonder if you've had it as well, is like even that fear of like wasting time or running out of time, right? That you know leads to burnout and everything. But then I would take that into hobbies as well, where I'm like, instead of just playing a game, I would almost like feel like I had to do everything in the game, and then I'd try to like 100% everything because I'm like, well, like I have to get the full experience of this game, right? And then it would end up becoming unenjoyable because I'm not actually playing the game for fun anymore.
Yeah.
I'm actually just trying to tick everything off a list.
I 100% agree. I do the same thing, and I'm doing that with Hogwarts at the moment.
Me
where
too, yeah.
I go off and do all the side quests, and then I realize like I've spent maybe an hour to 2 hours doing nothing.
Yeah.
I haven't progressed through the story.
I'm like, I've played fucking 80 hours of this game and I'm still like halfway through the story because I just walk around and do shit.
Yep, I agree. And then I make decisions like I did the same with God of War, where I was, got sort of halfway to 3/4 through the main arc and had spent many, many hours playing it. And I just got to a point where I was like, I just need to finish it. Like,
stop doing the side
I
quests.
love the story. I love the story so much. Why am I going off doing these like random shit that like I don't actually fully care about? I'm just trying to tick a box, like you said, get that platinum trophy.
Yeah, that's it. Like they reward it because they give you like trophies, and you're like, I have to get all the trophies. If you're like someone, I don't know, maybe it's like an OCD tendency or something where you're just like, I have to get all the trophies now. But it's like, I just realized I wasn't even having fun anymore.
Yeah,
and that sucks.
Yeah,
and I don't know. I think it's all linked to this general anxiety of wasting time and burnout and just exploring that.
Do you know one thing that I've done where I've pushed ego and pride aside?
Yeah,
is I've gone down a difficulty level on my games, right? Because I usually play at the hardest, as hard as whatever it gives me. That's what I'm playing at.
Yeah, me too.
And
because it's like a pride thing. You're like, I'm good at games. I'm not playing on normal. I'm playing on hard.
I was doing the same. I was on God of War mode on God of War, and it came to a point where like you'd spend like an hour on one boss.
Yeah,
and the only reason they're difficult is because they're a bullet sponge.
Yeah,
and they've just got
their attacks do 3 times as much.
Yeah, so
damage and
they're
stuff.
not any more difficult. You've just got to be 40 times more patient with how many times you can attack them before they kill you in one hit.
100%.
And so I remember just saying to my wife, like, why the fuck do I care about having to beat this on the most difficult level when what I actually care about this game in particular is the story?
Yeah.
Like, I should just kick it down, still make it difficult, like, either normal or maybe 1 up from normal.
Yeah.
If they've got 5. But if something is taking too long because the difficulty level is just a billion more health and a billion more damage they do to me,
Yeah.
then no, I'm just going to kick it down a notch, have a little bit of a challenge, but enjoy myself more because I'm getting more done in that time space that I have to play games. Like I said before,
Yes.
I don't have as much time anymore. I've got a baby. I've got like all this shit that I have to do.
And it's like, yeah, if you spend the whole 2 hours you've got just trying to beat one boss and like dying like 50 times.
Yeah.
You're just like, well, I've just wasted. I haven't made any progress.
Yeah, well,
and
I
that
always-
is wasted time.
Yeah, I always make the joke, which is ripped from South Park, like where I finally beat a boss or finally do something that I've been working on for an hour. And I'm like, yes, you know, and Taylor, my partner's like, oh, cool. So what's now? And like, well, now I can play the game.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, we'll do the last question, which kind of goes for like another 5 minutes or so, but I think you'll be really good at it. I'm really interested. So I always end by going, what is one movie, album, book, and video game that you think everyone should experience in their life? So it doesn't necessarily have to be like a favorite. It's just like, I just think everyone needs to hear this album or watch this movie or play this game.
Okay. Well, I think of the other ones. I will go album. So one of my favorite albums is actually 4 EPs. And it's band. Do you know Thrice?
Yeah?
Yeah. So Thrice did a collection of EPs called the Alchemy Index,
Okay.
which is still to this day some of the best production in music that I've heard. So they've got Earth, Fire, Wind, Water.
Oh, yes.
And each of those EPs, those 7-track EPs, they're all mixed and written differently. So
Okay.
Fire is heavy, screaming, really distorted. Earth is all acoustic. Wind is like soaring, sort of reverby guitars, and Water is digital, like chorusy. It is like
I love that as a concept.
that's what I mean. The best concept,
Yeah.
like collection I've ever heard.
I always love when bands like marry the art and the imagery, like the actual physical like album cover or whatever, or the title, and it's reflected in the music, and everything kind of links up, and there's like just such a strong concept around it, which I think American Idiot is that as well. Like it's the heart-shaped hand grenade bleeding onto the guy's hand. And I think all of that imagery just goes hand in hand. I'm definitely going to check out those EPs.
Oh,
that sounds so good.
It's a regular listen of mine, and they came out like 15 years ago or so.
Wow, that's such a good idea. Very Avatar: The Last Airbender as well.
Yeah. Heavier, but
I just mean the elements.
Yeah,
the 4 elements.
I mean, that's a whole nother episode. Is talking about Avatar, one of my favorites. But a book that I actually recently read, I'd say in the last 2 or 3 years, was this horror thriller called The Last House on Needless Street.
Okay.
Holy guacamole. That was written so freaking good. It's basically, try to spoiler-free synopsis it, but it's basically about, it follows 3 characters. It follows a girl whose younger sister was kidnapped or taken when they were really young. And she's sort of trying to find out who took her and where they've taken her. She thinks she's cracked on to who it is. It's written, and then another character's the perspective from is the guy that she thinks has taken her, who's a real big weirdo.
Mm.
And then it's written also from his cat.
Oh.
And
is this a Japanese book?
No.
I don't know why a lot of Japanese authors seem to write from the perspective of a cat. I've just noticed it a lot.
Yeah, it's a book that takes like a hot second to get used to the writing style, because when it's written from a cat, it's very meowy.
Yeah.
But the payoff is, I've not read a book where I was up until 2 or 3 a.m. most nights.
Yeah, page turner.
It was beautiful. I mean, that in June was pretty good too.
Awesome. Yeah, it's very rare you find a book where you like just want to keep reading, but you actually end up falling asleep on the book because you just like, I couldn't stop reading, but my body gave out.
Yeah. That was one of them actually. Yeah, I'd never fallen asleep reading a book, but Last House I did.
Yeah, it's crazy
when I think about that. Movie?
Yeah.
I'll skip movie because there's so bloody many.
Okay, video game.
And a game.
Like, what's the pinnacle of gaming that everyone should play?
Do you know, controversially, I actually like Secret of Evermore more than Secret of Mana?
Oh, yeah,
Did you
yeah.
play Secret of Mana?
I did on Super Nintendo.
Yeah, SNES, yeah.
It's almost like 2D Kingdom Hearts kind of vibe.
Yeah. So Secret of Evermore was a game. Actually, Kingdom Hearts is probably at the top there.
That's
I've got a Kingdom
such
Hearts
a good
tattoo.
game. What do you?
Yeah, I got a Heartless.
Oh my god, I've never have I did I know about this?
I don't know. Well, I'm not really shirtless that often. In the...
Matt's now taking his shirt off. Yeah, he's got a Heartless from Kingdom Hearts. That's awesome, man.
I got that a long time ago. Secret of Evermore would be up there.
Is that also on Super Nintendo?
Yeah, that came out around the same time as Mana.
Okay.
And it's about like a young guy that ends up finding like a time machine and travels back in time.
Okay.
It's exactly the same battle style and everything as Mana, but I just felt like the story and the monsters and stuff were way better.
Okay.
And you got like cute little pet dog
Okay, cool.
that changes every time you go back in time. So when you go back to prehistoric, it's like a big wolf.
Oh.
And then you go to sort of Egyptian times and it's like a greyhoundy thing. And then you go to the future and it's a toaster.
Oh, that's so cool.
It's so good.
Okay, I don't think I've heard of Secrets of Evermore.
So yeah, that's
I will check it out.
one of the best games I've ever played.
Cool.
That and then a recent one actually, because it might be hard to track that one down. Tunic. I told you about Tunic.
Yeah, I still need to play it.
Tunic was one of those games, man. I'm all about indie games, dude, because indie games give creative licensing to very, very smart people.
And so much just more creative freedom.
Yeah.
You notice like open world games, like they're all the
It's
same,
thing.
framework.
Yep. Exact same thing.
And even Hogwarts Legacy,
Yeah.
as much as I love it, I'm still just like, it's just one of the normal open world games. You go around, there's a bunch of stuff on the map you can walk to and do. It's fun. But it's like, then you look at a game like Tunic or one we were both talking about, Crosscode.
Oh, dude,
And it's just like, you would never see this from a AAA developer, ever.
Yeah, actually, sleeper hit. Chained Echoes on the Switch, which is like a JRPG game made by like one guy.
Oh yeah,
Came out.
Chained Echoes.
Chained Echoes came out. Yeah, like a couple months ago.
Okay.
That is one of the biggest sleeper hits RPGs I've ever played.
Cool.
Like crosscode level, like the sort of wow factor of the things that happen within crosscode.
Yeah.
Same sort of thing. Like I'm probably hour 50 into it.
Wow.
And still new content jumping out at me. Like at late game stuff where I'm like, what the fuck? Like, yeah, beautiful game. And then movie.
There's so many movies. There's like 50 movies.
You should have pre-warned me.
I should have. Little Nicky.
No. Do you know what? Like, one of my favorite movies is this Australian movie called Hercules Returns. I don't know if you've seen it.
No.
It's this Australian movie, and I watched it recently, and it doesn't really hold up. The comedy, it does for me, but I tried to make my wife watch it, and she was like, when people sort of nose laugh at things.
Yeah, like
just the exhale.
Stupid. Yeah.
It's about this guy who quits his job, buys a cinema, and tries to get this old cinema up and running. And he has this old movie Hercules playing, like an early version of Hercules, and finds out on the night that it's in Italian.
Oh, okay.
So he and his colleagues have to dub it live. And
why is this familiar?
And they dub it live, and it's just ridiculous. Like,
when did this come out?
A long time ago.
So it's not like, I thought it was like one of those movies that like Glenn Robbins and Mick Malloy were in, like Cracker Jack and Boy Town and
earlier than that.
Okay,
early 90s. I think this one.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, cool.
Yeah, but that's like, I don't know if
I'm gonna try and
if you like
check it
silly movies.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I hope it holds up for people.
I'm gonna watch it and talk about it.
Yeah. I'd love for you to see it and let me know how you feel.
Plug the dates for American Idiot again and where you can get tickets. I will be there, everyone, and I can't wait.
Yeah, so it's playing in Melbourne throughout March 9th to the 26th of March.
Awesome.
At Off Chapel in Prahran, which is a beautiful venue. And you can get tickets at theatrical.com.au. That's kind of the easiest way I say to get them. Like, you can get them on the Chapel website, but it's like chapel.com/blah, blah. So easy to remember, theatrical.com.au. And there's a big sign in the first thing you get.
go and grab tickets if you're in Melbourne. If you're not in Melbourne, fly down and get tickets. But seriously, it is a really good show. Matt's awesome. I can't wait. I'm coming with Keelan, friend of this show, and we're really excited. So, dude, thanks so much. It's been good to finally do something content-wise together, but this was awesome fun.
It was great fun. Thanks for having me on, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
This podcast was a Radio Mike original production. Head to radiomike.com.au to check out all our other content, stay up to date at radio.mike on Instagram, and get in touch, radiomikepod@gmail.com.